Welcome to Old Casebook. Today, we delve into the unsettling disappearance of Leigh Occhi.
Well, Wednesday marked 33 years since Leigh Occhi disappeared from her home in Tupelo.
A case that has baffled investigators and left a community searching for answers.
A local forensic anthropologist says investigators still believe Leigh Occhi's body is...
Leigh Occhi's body is buried somewhere on the property where she once lived.
Stay with us as we uncover the story behind this mysterious event. In 1992, as Hurricane Andrew wreaked havoc across Mississippi and tore through the Northeast, a 13-year-old girl vanished without a trace. According to police, she was the unsuspecting victim of a cold and calculated criminal who used the chaos of the storm as cover for her abduction and possible murder. Today, we are looking at the disappearance of Leigh Occhi. Leigh Occhi was born on August 21, 1979, to parents Donald Occhi and Vicky Felton. Both of her parents had served in the military, and following their divorce in 1981, Donald was relocated. Despite the distance, he and his daughter shared a close bond and visited each other whenever possible. Although Leigh was born in Honolulu, Hawaii, she and her mother eventually moved to Pearl, Mississippi, in late August of 1992. On the night of August 26th, violent rain and furious winds battered Tupelo as Hurricane Andrew approached. Fearful of storms, Leigh slept in her mother's bed that night. The following morning, the two shared breakfast and discussed their plans for the day. Leigh was scheduled to attend an open house at her middle school with her grandmother, as the new semester had not yet begun. Later that evening, she and her mother planned to go out for a meal together. Vicky left for work around 7:30 a.m., marking the first time she had ever left 13-year-old Leigh home alone. Leigh had only turned 13 the week before. Shortly after arriving at work, Vicky heard news reports that Hurricane Andrew was heading toward their area and immediately called home to check on her daughter. Leigh did not answer. Growing anxious, Vicky tried again, but once more, there was no response. Knowing this behavior was completely out of character, Vicky felt something was terribly wrong. At 8:30 a.m., she left work and rushed home to 105 Honey Locust Drive. When she arrived, she noticed the garage door was open and the light inside was on, something that would only happen within minutes of the door being opened. She also found another door to the house unlocked. Since this was the first time Leigh had been left alone, Vicky had made sure the house was fully secured before leaving. Panic quickly set in as she searched the home, calling out Leigh's name again and again, only to be met with silence. Inside, Vicky was confronted with a horrifying sight. A pool of blood on the floor, with blood splattered up the wall. When she reached Leigh's bedroom, she saw her daughter's favorite blanket lying crumpled on the floor. Realizing something was terribly wrong, Vicky called 911, frantically telling police that her daughter was missing and there was blood throughout the house. Police arrived quickly at the scene, but found no signs of forced entry, leading investigators to believe that Leigh may have opened the door for someone she knew or trusted. Further searches revealed even more blood, including a large pool in the hallway. Blood was also found in Leigh's bedroom, the bathroom, and on her bedroom door. The blood was still wet, and investigators noted splatter patterns and strands of hair on the doorframe. clear signs that a violent struggle had taken place. The injuries were consistent with a severe head wound inflicted by someone around 5 feet tall. Leigh herself was only 4'10". Blood found in the bathroom led investigators to believe that whoever had been inside the house that morning had attempted to clean up the scene. As the evidence continued to mount, police became convinced that Leigh had been murdered inside her own home. When officers searched her bedroom, her mother Vicky told them that several important items were missing, including Leigh's shoes, some underwear, a sleeping bag, and her glasses. In the laundry basket, investigators discovered her blood-stained nightgown, indicating that Leigh must have been wearing something else when she either left or was taken from the house. The investigation was led by Tupelo Police Chief Bartow Query, who believed the nightgown provided critical insight into what had happened. He explained that the blood appeared to have dripped downward onto the fabric, suggesting the injury occurred above the neck. Police quickly mobilized and formed search teams across Tupelo in a desperate effort to find her. Leigh's description was circulated: 4'10", 95 pounds, with blonde hair and hazel eyes. Officers combed nearby woodlands and surrounding areas, but no trace of her was found. Due to harsh weather conditions, search dogs were unable to pick up a scent. While DNA evidence is now the backbone of modern police investigations, testing was still in its infancy in the early 1990s. Instead, investigators relied on blood typing and determined the blood at the scene was type O. Interviews were conducted throughout Tupelo, including family members, friends, classmates, neighbors, and teachers. Yet no credible leads emerged. Rick Harmon, a crime reporter for the Daily Journal, later recalled that the first few days were chaotic and frantic, as investigators desperately tried to determine whether Leigh might still be alive, injured, hidden, or lost somewhere. Her father, Donald, who was stationed out of state in Virginia at the time of her disappearance, was consumed by anger and grief. He said the coward responsible must have felt powerful to beat a little girl to death, often imagining the terror Leigh must have felt as she bled out in her own home. The small city of Tupelo was suddenly thrust into a media firestorm.
The first is in Tupelo, where there is a heavy presence of federal and state law enforcement.
Vicky Felton left for work and was the last person to see her.
Dr. Goliath continues to help investigators search for Occhi's body.
Known as the hometown of Elvis Presley, it was now infamous for a far darker reason. This was a place where people once felt safe, leaving their doors unlocked, where community bonds were strong, and where residents took pride in calling it home. Until everything changed. Hammond said the people of Cheatham wanted some kind of reassurance that this was not a case of a stranger simply showing up at a home and abducting a child. Leigh's father described her as a smart, sweet little girl, a true daddy's kid, like so many young girls are. She loved being hugged, enjoyed pizza, and adored dogs. This once idyllic city was suddenly turned upside down by the disappearance of one of its own. Everyone knew a girl like Leigh. About a week after she vanished, a McDonald's employee reported seeing a girl in the drive-thru who closely resembled her. Police quickly followed up on the lead, but it ultimately turned out to be a false alarm. Rumors soon began circulating about Vicky's ex-boyfriend, Barney Yarbrough. The couple had recently ended their relationship, and Barney was allegedly abusive toward Leigh. There were also reports that Leigh had shown up at school with a black eye and bruises, though these claims were never fully corroborated. Barney was immediately brought in for questioning, but he was able to provide a solid alibi and passed a polygraph test, leaving investigators once again at square one. On September 9th, 2 weeks after Leigh vanished from her home, a package arrived at the house. It was an 8-inch envelope addressed to Barney Yarbrough, Vicky's ex-boyfriend, with the return address listed as the same location. Inside were Leigh's glasses, the same ones taken from the house on the day she disappeared. The postmark showed the package had been sent from nearby Boonville. Following this development, the FBI was brought in to assist with the investigation. The envelope was sent to the State Crime Lab in Jackson for handwriting and DNA analysis, but attempts to extract DNA from the stamp failed as water had been used instead of saliva. The police chief believed the glasses were mailed in an effort to mislead investigators. Several locals urged Donald to take a closer look at Vicky. He later stated, "I was already doing that." While he said he did not know whether Leigh's mother was involved, police soon began focusing their attention on Vicky as part of the investigation. She was subjected to 3 separate polygraph tests, 1 administered by the chief of police and 2 conducted by the FBI. After analyzing the results, independent examiners stated that she showed signs of deception in every single test. In 2017, the police chief said, "You still can't eliminate her. There are still too many unanswered questions for Vicky." He also questioned her behavior, saying he did not know if it was unusual for someone to leave for work and then immediately call to check on Leigh. "Why check on her that soon after you just left her?" he asked. In a 2012 interview with the Daily Journal, Vicky stated that Leigh would never have opened the door to a stranger, meaning anyone she allowed inside must have been someone she recognized and trusted. The person Vicky suspected of being involved in her daughter's disappearance lived just a mile away. He was a Bible school teacher and shared Leigh's passion for horses at the stables off North Thomas Street. His name was Oscar McKinley Carnes. 9 months after Leigh vanished from her home, Carnes abducted a girl he met through a church in Tupelo. She was alone at her house around 7 a.m. when he arrived, under the guise of taking her to school. Instead, he drove her to a secluded area in DeSoto County where he subjected her to horrific and prolonged sexual assaults. He later drove her to school, where she reported him to the police. Carnes was convicted and sentenced to 24 years in prison, with 16 years suspended. After serving less than 4 years, he was released. In 1999, he was again convicted, this time for kidnapping a couple and sexually assaulting the woman. On November 9th, 1993, the Clarion Ledger reported that a skull had been found in a ditch in Monroe County and identified as Leigh's. However, days later, the report was retracted after further testing revealed the remains belonged to Pollyanna Sue Keith, who had gone missing earlier that year. In 2009, Leigh's mother, Vicky, said she would not accept anything as certain until a body was found, and that she remained hopeful Leigh was still alive. Despite the suspicious circumstances surrounding the disappearance of Leigh Occhi, no trace of her has ever been found. Her father, Donald, said, "I don't know if we will ever find out what happened. If you have any information related to the disappearance or whereabouts of Leigh Occhi, please contact Crime Stoppers of Northeast Mississippi, the Tupelo Police Department, or the Federal Bureau of Investigation." And that was the chilling disappearance of Leigh Occhi, a case that continues to haunt those who knew her. If you found this story intriguing, don't forget to subscribe to Old Casebook and press the bell icon so you never miss our deep dives into unsolved mysteries.